SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone. Welcome back to the course Signages and Wayfinding. In today's session, we will cover lecture 7, which is on project coordination. In this lecture, we will be covering the award process, the communication which happens, drawing and scheduling, how to specify paints, materials and what technology it will be using, how to approve samples, how to do the testing, site locations and planning, on-site inspection and final approval. But before we go on these, let's have a quick recap or a revision which we have covered so far. So, we have covered the signages and wayfinding. What are they? We also talked about Miller's model, which was highlighting 3 things. Then we talked about environmental graphic design, its importance, significance and history. We also gone through on the theories of Calvin Lynch, David Gibson, J.J. and Remedy Pessany. We also talked about what is transit trip layouts and how they are prepared. What are the impact of colors, fixtures, fittings, finishes and color contrast. What are the various classifications of signages? What is the development and evolution of pictograms from historical time to current? What are the cultural and regional influences on the signages? How to do the material selection? The technical requirements are what for signages? How to do the calculation for signage size, font style, font type and its positioning. And in the last lecture, we covered signage design development. We talked about how to understand project, how to develop mood boards, the concept development for complex buildings, what are the tenant fit out manuals and how the fabrication and installation technology which can help in developing the concept. Now, let us go to our today's session, that is project coordination. So, what is this award process? When we do the project coordination, it involves series of tasks and processes which are critical for smooth execution of signages and wayfinding. Here are some seeks and peaks for that. First one is award process. So, how contracts are selected and awarded to the vendor or contractors for existing signage projects. This is what we have to understand in the award process. What are the communication? We have to learn about the important effective communication channels and protocols to ensure the seamless coordination among project stakeholders. The drawing and scheduling, we have to delve into creating detailed drawings, schedules, outlining of work scope and project completion timeline. While specifying paints, material and technology, we need to understand how clear specifications are provided for paints, materials and technologies used in signages fabrication and installation. When we approve samples, we have to know and explore the process of reviewing and approving signage components, the sample to ensure they meet the required standards. The testing, where we discover the importance of testing procedures to validate functionality and durability of the signage component before installation. Then on-site inspection, we have to explore how inspections are conducted at various projects to sign off the project completion, then the final approval. At the end, we also have to discuss that final inspection and approval conducted to a sign off of a project completion, what happens and how these approvals are done and the installation takes place. So, these are the basics definitions which we gone through. Now, let us get into the detail of each. Once all design are approved, it is time for put together for a bid package. This involves compiling all the necessary documents and information to send out to potential vendors and contractors for bidding of the project. The documentation plays a critical role in success of any project. We have to ensure that everyone involved has a clear understanding of expectations, the requirements and the standards. Proper documentation helps prevent misunderstanding and assuring accountability. The list of the documentation is also been mentioned in this. These documentation in signage reference refers to the signage message schedule. If there is any artwork on the signages, the message location plans, signage configuration drawings, the detailed drawings, the graphic layout if any, and the specifications. We also have to clearly outline the scope of the work and deadlines, especially for which is essential for project management. This helps in both the project team and the contractor to understand their responsibilities and assures that work is completed on time. Implementing the safety measures such as minimum qualification standards is vital to ensure that the quality and integrity of the project has to be met. Reinforcing past project or prototype can provide valuable insight and best practices and avoid potential risks. We also have to understand that lowest bid isn't always the best bid. While cost is an important thing, it is equally crucial to consider the factors such as quality, reliability and experience while selecting the vendors and the contractors. By addressing these topics thoroughly and thoughtfully, we can assure a smooth and successful project execution process. In this process of award process, we also have to request for proposals. We call it as RFP as well. This is a formal document used by organization to solicit bid from the potential vendors and contractors for designing, fabrication and installation of the signage systems. This has three important things: the quality and standards, that any request for proposal document, the organization specifies the quality of each type of signage needed and the set of instruction standards for their design, material and installation. This also includes detail such as size, shape, colors and functionality of the signage which is required to meet the organization needs and bidding guidelines. Then price per unit. This RFP also requests that vendor provide price information for each unit of signage based on the specified quantities and standards. Vendor typically provide a breakdown of cost of material, fabrication and installation and any other added services if required. This overall process are usually done in spreadsheets which facilitate comparison and analysis of the bid from different vendors, and pricing information which is often requested to be submitted in the form of spreadsheet. This allows the organization to easily review and evaluate the proposed cost of each unit of signage, as well as any additional fees or discounts or offers by the vendor. Overall, if you see, request for proposal document serve as a comprehensive document which outlines organization requirement and expectations for the signage and wayfinding project. If you see in the screen, you might find one of the form which actually is the request for proposal sample form, which includes the item numbers where you list all the items. That means, suppose if I am using the directional sign, I can use the code DR0001 and then my signage number. Quantity, here it's been mentioned 24, item, unit and price bid. So, small instruction or specification of the product and then the unit price. So, here we will be mentioning the unit price and multiplying this to this, we get the overall amount. In this way, we list these signages and we ask for vendors to fill the unit price as well as the total amount. We get the overall cost over here. This includes only the signages. After that, we also have one section which has to cover additional fees, the charges, the installation or checking or any other related based on the locations. Every every country has their local laws which need to be followed. Then, in this overall collaboration, we need to understand what is the overall process in this bidding takes place. Here, the designer initiates the process by creating comprehensive design drawings, here, schedule, project scopes detailing the vision and requirement of the fabrication. Then, on approval, the fabricator takes the charge of the project management. He oversees the task, prepare drawings, seeking approvals, managing permits and process the billing. After that, the civil or the electrical contractor handles the foundational aspects, assuring secure attachment points and meticulous attention to the technical details during the installation. For example, the foundation of the signage we designed in the last lecture. During this installation, price markouts and utility location calls are also made to ensure accurate placement of the safety. The documentation and compilation with regulations are managed by fabricator who also participate in bidding process and secure the contracts. Site work and final inspections are conducted to assess the requirements, mark out locations, ensure quality and safety standards are met post-installation. Through coordinated efforts, the stakeholders contribute to seamless execution of signage projects from conceptualization to the completion. Next, the communication. In exchange to the vital information effectively, it is very important to have an effective communication. It can be through the emails, phones, fax, but it is essential to have the communication in a timely fashion. Scheduling weekly review of the project update actually helps the project to complete on time, and it also saves valuable time. While communicating, we have to sometimes exchange the files for execution works. So, the document has to be formally and in format like AI, which is Adobe Illustrator, Corel Draw or CAD drawings, has to be given, since these are the files which are in vector forms. It is always preferred to give the files which are in the vector, so that there is no problem of pixelation and the modification on site can also be possible. It is also advisable to take the tour to understand the partner's need. That means everybody on board, all the stakeholders who are working on the project need to have at least one tour of the entire project, which actually helps in making understand to all the requirements of what and who wants to have what, and that makes everyone on one page. Now, let us go to the next point, which is drawing and schedules. When in the project coordination, there is a very important part, which is how we are giving our drawings and the schedules. For instance, let us consider that we are creating a panel signage. Here are certain few questions that needs to be addressed. That is, what is my panel size? If I want to tell what is the size, that means I have to know what is the height, what is the width, which is this one, what is my thickness, this is width and this is thickness, what is the height from the grade if I have some podium, so what is that, what is the color I am using, what is a Pantone matching system. PMS stands for Pantone matching system. So, if I am proposing colors in the Pantone, we need to mention what kind of a color it is. Like here, there are two different colors we are using. Then we have to give the layouts, that is the front elevation, what is the font am I using, what is the color I am using, what is the cap height. The elevations and the sections are actually helping me to explain all these things. That is why we have to give maximum drawings for better understanding. We also have to give the details of, is it the gloss finish or the matte finish, which paint is gloss and which paint is matte, is there any flat surface or is there any metallic finish we are using. If you see, this is a section of this signage elevation. This is small detail of this point, and this are the basic information which actually need to be included in the overall drawing. While moving to the scheduling part, we need to establish the schedule set, the tone of the project, and assures everyone is on the same page regarding the timelines. The drawings need to be submitted for approvals, including sample submittals, to give the stakeholders a clear idea of the final product. Once we receive the approvals, the site walk is conducted access the installation requirement and to finalize the details. A fabrication schedule is then created to outline the manufacturing process from the material procurement and production, and in the end the installation has to take place according to the schedule. This has to be followed by the punch list of the address by remaining the task or deficiencies mentioned in that list. Now, specifying paint, materials and technology. Firstly, we need to decide what type of paint we want to use. It involves consideration factors like durability, appearance and environmental impact. We also need to address how the chosen paint will protect the signage from environment conditions. This includes things which is like whether it is corrosion proof, the graffiti will be remain the same, the moisture damage will not happen, all these information. When it comes to the gloss level, we need to ensure that the surface of the paint film achieves the desired finish. The glossy paint can offer a sleek reflective surfaces, while the matte finish can be more subdued and give subtle appearance. It is important to note that the flat paint, while it may provide a smooth finish, tend to be more porous and can trap dirt over time. So, we need to consider the maintenance applications of this paint to choose very wisely. So, I might not use it for the hospital. Okay. We also need to see that the material we use in this signage project, including steel, aluminum, fiberglass, vinyl, laminates or concrete, paint, the fabrication and installation technology play a critical role. This also needs to be decided that what technology we are going to use in this. Many of the technology we have covered, but here are some which we have not covered in that part. So, the CAD/CAM technology, which is enabling planning and execution of the signage fabrications, paint systems, which enables durability and visual appearance, protecting signage from the environment elements, wet saw used for precise cutting of materials like stone, ceramic of signages, welding, which joins metal components securely for stable signage installation, lamination, which is the layer level of adding strength, protection and visual appearance, drilling, core drilling, which creates hole for attaching the signage fixtures, grouts, which is like filling the gap and securing attachments for stable, weatherproof signage installation. Now, let us see what is there in approving the samples. In this section of project coordination, the approving sample has its own role. The materials and the finished samples are used as a verification method to assure that both the designer or the signage consultant and the fabricator are in an agreement and working together to the same goal. This helps to avoid any misunderstanding or discrepancies in the fabrication. Here is also a sample form which include the following elements. This sample form includes, if you see, the color here, all the spellings are correct, the finishing is fine, the shop drawing actually gets the signature only if it's been checked from all the stakeholders, which includes all the people who are working for the drawings and the designing part. This includes the spelling and finishes part as well. Then the paints, if it's been checked. Then any other submittals, that means any other coordination matters. Then permit information, if the government has any proposed permits or the landlord has proposed any important information or guidelines or any other. It also includes the site location drawings, the detailed drawings of the signages. So, this form serves as a comprehensive checklist to assure accuracy and the completeness of the signage fabrication process. Now, next comes the testing. Testing is typically conducted as a concluding step in the process, often leveraging insights gained from the past projects. It serves as a critical quality assurance which measures to assure the project meet performance standards and specifications. By thoughtful testing products before deployment, the potential issues can be identified and addressed, ultimately leading to increased reliability and longevity of the usage. Product or the material used in the project, is it working fine or not? Let us take one example. Suppose for the new project, we have proposed a stainless steel signage which was installed within the corridor. Now, since I am developing a new wing to the same project, this installed signage will work as a testing tool that over 1 year of period or even more, what is the current conditions of that installed signage. So, if it works fine and does not get corroded, then we might recommend based on that the same material for our new project or for the next wing of the same project. Now, let us go on to the site location and planning. Site location and planning involves conducting a sidewalk to address key questions such as, is it behind the setbacks, the signage which have been used, or it also assures the signage installation remain stable and secure. During the walk, the markers are placed like this to establish the reference point for accurate placement of the signages. Once these markings have been done, the coordination with other services takes place. These coordinations are with geographical engineers, mechanical engineers and the service designers. So, what do you think? What kind of a coordination would be requiring on this? I can easily mark these signages and put our signage over there. We can, for the foundations, we can dig the ground and install. But here comes the trick. Signage consultants are not only the people who are working for the site. There are many people involved and are the stakeholders for the project. For example, while working on this, we discovered that there is a gas pipeline coming in this line. What has to be done? If that has been known before, then maybe we can change the locations, but in case it was not taken care of, it can result into huge accident. So, it is not just the gas line, sometimes a water line which can actually, if accidentally broken, can create problem for the area where that pipe connects. So, the people, the locality will face the problem by this disruption, or even the electrical cable. This is not only hazardous to the people who are actually digging, It's also problematic for the way it's going. So, the people might have problem later because of the electricity disruption. This reminds me of one project we did where we looked all the drawings, all the architectural drawings and even the landscape drawings, which shows us all the pipes, the water harvesting pipes. Since the concrete block was near to the green area and it was away from the road, since this is the road, we thought to install the signage over here, which can actually help the people from here and here to identify the signage. And this signage was double sided. We coordinated for the water pipe, gas pipe, even the landscape people who developed the landscape here. So, their water harvesting pipe, but we missed to coordinate one of the stakeholders, that was fiberglass. So, this resulted that the net facility was disrupted for more than 2 weeks. So, this has to be taken care of, that while marking we have to have all the coordinated people in the team and walk at an initial level. The teamwork I mean is very important and plays a very important role, especially for the people who actually worked for the project, who actually made the drawings. In case putting the people or the drawings maker is not in the team, in that case the drawings related to that field has to be with you, so that you can easily trace where are the best locations where we can place the signs, because signage is the last part which actually comes into picture after installing the landscape, the water supply, the electricity, even the your cables, optical cables, everything. Now, while doing on-site inspection, when we are done with the planning the site locations and we did the testing, we gave all the submittals and everything. Now, we go for the site inspections. The installation has already happened. You have installed the foundations, you have done everything. We have to take care of few things. The site visit with everyone, as I told you before, is very important. So, rather than doing more than 10 trips, it is advisable to go for one trip, but taking every stakeholders in team. The stakeholder means the people who actually work for those services. This makes everyone on same page. The discussion will help everyone to understand what is going on, what are we expected, how are we going to install, or is everything all right? So, putting everybody on one page is very important for making a successful project. Then, in the inspection process, we need to check, are the signages on the correct locations? the signage are positioned correctly. The arrows which is in the sign, is it correct? Suppose we have designed certain signages. This is my site, this is the road. I have my signage and there is one important meeting area here. This signage shows that this is the door and from here you can access this. So, this direction you can go for the meeting. The signage is installed over here, same, it has the same wording. So, the arrow will come something this way. Will this solve the purpose? No, for this it is wrong, because arrows need to be put differently. If I have an opening from here, it needs to have a different directions altogether. So, during this inspection, we need to check especially the directional signs. The chances of putting the directional sign wrong is way high than identification sign and even the information sign. Since identifications are for the room identification, so any room we can put this at the front of the room, but still they also need to be checked. We cannot put a female washroom signage on a male washroom sign. So, such kind of inspections has to be done very properly. When we do the inspection on large urban sites, we also need to see the pole height, pole straightness. The signages which are installed on the poles, especially would have seen the parking sign like this. So, is this straight or there is a bulging inside of a very small angle? That needs to be checked. What paint we are using? Is the paint correct? It is. Is it matching to the Pantone shade which we have given? Or suppose I am making a site which has the MACD at one corner. I have used a identification sign to make people understand, yes, there is a MACD on the left hand side, but the colors yellow and red are not following the same branding colors. This will be checked with the proper shade cards. Also, sometimes we see that the paint coatings are not done properly and unevenly, and even sometimes the corners are not being treated properly. There are also some cases where we have given a glossy sign that was installed. The signage designer has given everything perfect, that it has to be a glossy over here. But when we install this signage, we find that there is a pole, light pole coming here, 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 which was not earlier, or the lighting designer, street light designer, transportation designer you mean, they have changed the locations. This is a job of a signage designer, that they have to check, due to this lighting, is there any glare which has been created? If so will be the case, then we need to change the locations. Similarly, when we install the ceiling mounted signage, many times we see that this alignment is not proper. We need to check them and do the noting of it. And even the wire cable, they are not straight, or they are like this. If you see that these are the important visual elements and this cable has to be put straight. So, these noting has to come into the inspection part. Color of the wall is sometimes when we propose the signage, we took all the consideration of the contrast. But at this side, suppose this entire wall was lighter in shade, but this wall was in darker shade. And over this, when we put the dark signage, the signage was not visible. So, we need to see such things, because it may happen that we have given, based on the initial work, initial data, the signage was recommended correctly, but due to certain changes, it has changed. It is not matching the way it was required to be. Now, I have another example where we were working for an auditorium in which the structural engineer gave the structural layout, and based on that we put the long informational panels on the side walls, so that this can be easily visible to the aisles, people who are sitting at these locations. But due to some project changes, the structural engineer changed the location from here, from 3 to 4. So, the thing which was earlier 3 is now 4. Check the visibility for people who are sitting on this. This signage is not visible at all for people here, and even the people here. So, when we are doing the inspection, it can possible that as a consultant you have done your job, but since there are circumstances by which one thing has changed, so you might have to modify and update the overall designs, drawings and the locations, and sometimes the color and fit. Now, the final approval. How we take the final approval, how it happens. So, in the final approval process, it is crucial to identify any possible issues that may need attention. We have to take care of repair requirements and any comments for improvement, which should be recorded in a punch list, yani punch form. This is the example of the punch form. We have to set a follow-up dates and re-inspection to ensure that all the repairs are completed satisfactorily before the final sign-off. We have to provide clear instructions for any necessary actions to be taken based on the observations made during this inspection. Additionally, we have to gather as-built information to document the current state of the signages. This will actually assure that the final inspection is comprehensive and helps to maintain the quality and integrity of the signage installation process. The punch card or the list, it's a list which is the document which is prepared during the inspection to record the defects, issues and correction needed. So, let us see this list. This here is the signage type. So, we have the directional signage here. So, maybe we can write the code DR01. Now, the model, that means that series number or the location reference in plan from the plan drawing, and then writing that it is not installed, or we have to allow change allow to point, or the paint has scratches on the pole, out of plumb. So, this way we write the problems and the location references, what has been inspected and what needs to be repaired. In case we are doing project and some issues has been raised due to the changes in the project initial process, we as a signage consultant do have this hitch that okay, this might increase the overall work for me, but you need to be assured that the changes because of the project management team or the changes they have made, that will, if that is affecting your signages layouts or the position or the metal finishes. So, the cost has to be bore by them. So, we have to do the detailed costing and give them the proposal that okay, this were the changes listed later and we need to make these drawings or make these changes, and we need this will be the budget. I have taken one snapshot from one of the project where how the payment happens. If you see carefully, although the fonts are very small, but will give you an idea that these columns are actually showing the spaces. So, you have these exterior space, you have these basement, you have interiors, you have interior of the other buildings, building back of houses. So, this is based on how many number of drawings and how many spaces you are covering. And here if you see the rows, it says at stage 1 what are the deliverables, what we need, and what at stage 2 what are the deliverables, and at stage 3 what are the deliverables. We need to understand these payment process as well, since sometimes the projects are huge and you need to do the consulting to some of the people, some of the better signage designers. So, in that contract we have to mention how the overall payment will happen. So, this data sheet, which is actually in Excel, helps in arranging that how the overall payment will happen. So, if that what is the amount of payment which will happen at stage 1, what will happen at stage 2 and what will happen at stage 3. And each and every sheet has been marked with certain amount. In case these drawings are missing, we can easily say that okay, this amount will not be included in the contract amount. So, the entitled fees can vary based on the sheet or the drawings submitted. So, this was all for this session. Let us have a quick summary what we have gone through today. So, we first gone through on how the award process takes place, what are the communication why communication is important, what are the drawings and scheduling, how they have to be incorporated, then the paints, material and technology, then what are the approving samples, how we approve certain samples, what are the testing has to be taken care of, and then on site locations what things we have to take care of, and then while doing the inspection how the errors can be identified and modified and how to take the final approval. This is it for the day. So, thank you.
Hello, I am A.K. Sharma and I teach sociology in IIT Kanpur. I am going to discuss a question which is frequently posed to sociologists, and that is what is the role of sociology in policy making. Now, so far in our country and also in the world, in World Bank, in UN organizations, in Population Council, planning is seen as something for which economists are particularly trained, and very few sociologists were found in planning process. Planning was given to statisticians and to economists. But now gradually planners and states are realizing that sociologists have a very important contribution to make to planning process. What can sociologists do to planning? Sociologists can pose problems. Sociology can identify which problems of society need priority or greater intervention. Like Indian society may be suffering from thousands of problems, but since solution of problem requires expenditure of resources in terms of time, money and manpower, all the problems cannot be solved or we cannot focus on all the problems. Do you know that our national health plan focuses only on 15% of the diseases from which people in India die? It is not possible to cover all 100% diseases in the program. Program means resources. So, sociologists can help us by conducting surveys, by talking to people, by doing field work, that from people's perspective which problems need to be given greater attention. Then sociologists can also help the planners in understanding various dimensions of the problem. Suppose you are trying to solve the problem of why in India maternal mortality rate is high. We know that maternal mortality rate means rate of deaths among women associated with childbirth is particularly high. Sociologists tell them that this problem is not going to be solved simply through health intervention. We have to look at things in entirety or totality or what we call holistically, And we have to understand that India has a patriarchal system in which in rural areas particularly, value of life of a woman is very little. This is one meaning of patriarchy. So, if you do not care about your women, you will not take them to health center also. There is a problem of transportation, there is a problem of ignorance. People do not know the danger signs, people do not go to ashas, people do not go for ANC, people do not understand the danger signs. There are several danger signs which everybody should be able to know if a woman in the family becomes pregnant. Sociologists tell that apart from health interventions, you require other interventions also, education, empowerment, power of women in decision making, nutrition, control of stress. The sociologists can tell the planners all these. And one important role that sociologists can play in planning process is by involving in monitoring and evaluation of development programs. From time to time government launches various programs for the benefit of people, like you all have heard about Manrega, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Scheme or Act, Manrega, A for Act, S scheme, or other welfare programs. We sociologists can conduct studies and tell to what extent goals of these programs have been attained and what are the bottlenecks or what needs to be done in the future to improve the effectiveness and efficiency. Effectiveness means reach, efficiency means cost benefit ratio, how to improve effectiveness and efficiency of the program. And are there some specific groups where some specific intervention is to be launched to make these programs successful. Something which can work in Delhi may not work in remote tribal areas of Chhattisgarh. So, sociologists help the planners in evolving area specific approach to implementation of their development programs. These days an interesting branch of sociology called reflexive sociology can also help the planners in understanding if the methods that they are using to solve the existing problems, they are themselves going to create new kinds of problems in the future. Reflexive sociology is about understanding the ill consequences of interventions launched by the government or NGOs or by civil society in the interest of society. You know, something which we do for improvement or in the interest of society can also create problems. Bureaucracy, for example, created the problem of red tapeism, and health programs led to population crisis, urbanization led to alienation, and development produced the environmental problem. So, reflexive sociology can help you in anticipating if your solutions are going to create new problems and how to deal with them. Thank you.